Veiled Desires by Shimon Prologue. Khalilah Raye had always believed in logic, in reason. As a psychologist, the intricacies of the human mind were her domain, a labyrinth she could traverse with confidence. But standing on the precipice of the Mount Speedwell lookout, watching the city of Richmond sparkle below like constellations pinned to an eternal sky, she sensed the shadows creeping in. Something was waiting for her. She could feel it, lurking just beyond the veil of her carefully controlled life. The helicopter's noise faded into the background as she lost herself in thought. The thrill of the unknown exhilarated her. A new case, new subjects to study. Little did she expect, it was not profiles she'd be analyzing, but her desires, tangled in the web of a man who had carved out his own place in the criminal underworld. On the cusp of a storm she could not predict, Khalilah was blissfully unaware that her life was about to change forever under the delicate balance of light and shadow. A thrill beyond the abyss awaited, and its captor was as intoxicating as danger should be. Scene 1. A new assignment. The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting golden beams through the fluttering leaves of the oak trees lining the office complex where Khalilah Raye found herself pacing. Each bright ray felt like a harbinger of the unpredictable future ahead, a strong contrast to the heavy humidity wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. A lingering storm brewed somewhere in the distance, rumbling softly, and she had a foreboding sense that it would break soon. Khalilah paused, glancing out of the expansive glass window of her tiny office, biting her nail absent-mindedly. The sterile white walls did little to inspire creativity. She needed a spark, something vibrant to shake off the monotony of her days steeped in deadlines and demographics. Little did she know, the spark was about to arrive in the form of a new assignment, one that would turn her world upside down. The sudden chime of her phone broke her reverie, grating against the silence that filled the room. She snatched the device, her heart racing as she saw the name flashing on the screen. Tamara. Her best friend, the queen of wild ideas and risky ventures, had a knack for reinvigorating Khalilah's cautious spirit. "Hey girl, you won't believe what just landed on my desk." Tamara's voice oozed excitement, thrumming through the line like a pulse. "What now? Is this another one of your extravagant party invitations?" Khalilah half laughed, half groaned as she leaned back in her chair. "Oh no, this is way juicier. The magazine assigned you to profile Ayo Kanala." Tamara exclaimed, her enthusiasm palpable. Khalilah's breath caught in her throat, her pulse quickening. Ayo Kanala, the renowned crime boss with an impeccable reputation for being as deadly as he was charismatic. The man was a literal legend, shrouded in just the right amount of mystery to swirl around him like smoke. No one ever got too close or lived to tell the tale. "Please tell me you're joking," Khalilah replied, her voice trembling slightly as she switched from auditor's notes to scribbling on a notepad, her pen moving briskly. "The Ayo Kanala?" "The same! This is your moment, Khalilah," Tamara squealed, her voice rising a pitch. "Your chance to dig deep into the mind of a man who's all the rage. Who knows? You might inspire him to go legit or something. Or get myself whacked," Khalilah muttered, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. "What on earth would I even ask him? Just be yourself. Try not to swoon too much," Tamara teased. Khalilah could almost see her rolling her eyes. "Oh, of course, because that's clearly on the top of my to-do list." Khalilah shifted in her chair, doubt knotted in her stomach as the weight of the assignment settled over her. What if I can't handle it? What if he sees right through me? "You've got this. Just remember to keep your cool. I mean, if he's as charming as he is notorious, you've surely walked into worse situations, like that disastrous date with Javier." "Ugh, don't remind me," Khalilah said, with an exaggerated sigh. "I still have a scar from that." "Then this is your redemption, Khalilah. Go in there like a lioness." "More like a rabbit who wandered into the lion's den," she retorted, a nervous chuckle following. "What if he decides to not let me leave? Worrying already? That's just plain cute," Tamara teased, her laughter infectious. "Khalilah, please. You're fierce, ambitious, but a little more laughter might serve you well. Get your game face on. Channel that fire in you." Khalilah grinned, rolling her eyes playfully. "Fine. I'll try not to look too terrified." "That's the spirit. Just visualize winning him over. Who knows? He might turn out to be your next big story, or better yet, a tall, dark, and handsome hero. Ha! Khalilah scoffed, shaking her head. This isn't some romantic comedy. He's a crime lord, Tamara. Ah, but that's the best part. A tortured soul beneath the bravado. Just remember, love swoops in at the oddest moments. Before she could respond, there was an unexpected knock at her office door, causing her to jump. She cleared her throat, straightening her posture. I'll think about it, she said, squeezing her eyes closed briefly, imagining Ayo's face. Think fast, he's a catch, Tamara joked before hanging up. Khalilah took a deep breath, forcing herself to open the door, a rush of anticipation flooding her veins. The storm drummed against the window now, echoing the chaos brewing within her. She hadn't known it yet, but her life was about to transform irrevocably, and Ayo Kanala was at the very heart of it. Scene 2. The Gala Invitation. The evening air wrapped around Khalilah Raye like a silk scarf, cool and refreshing, yet it suffused her with a sense of urgency that quickened her pulse. She stood before the mirror in her elegantly appointed living room, the glow of the sunset spilling through the window, casting warm amber light across her skin. Her fingers danced over the deep emerald fabric of her gown, which draped effortlessly over her curves, subtly reflecting the soft elegance she craved for this high society gala. She hardly recognized the confident woman staring back at her. Yet the lingering doubts whispered. The question of whether she belonged in that world loomed like rain clouds threatening to break. As she smoothed a stray curl behind her ear, a thought struck her. Tonight wouldn't simply be about her career. Her hopes hinged on catching a glimpse of Ayo Kanala, the mesmerizing man who haunted her dreams and her waking thoughts. Their last encounter, charged with tension and unspoken words, replayed in her mind as she slipped on her heels. Would he even notice her amid the chaos of gala chatter and masked faces? Just then, her phone vibrated. It was a text from her best friend, Layla. You'll be magnificent tonight. Just remember, the gala is a playground, not a battlefield. Khalilah smirked to herself, mentally debating whether it was Layla's over-the-top enthusiasm or her own inner turmoil that made her stomach flutter with anxiety. Okay, Khalilah, breathe, she murmured, her reflection echoing her hard-won resolve. You've got this. She took one last look in the mirror, her dark almond-shaped eyes shimmering with determination. When she arrived at the gala, her senses exploded with a whirlwind of colors, laughter, and the heady scent of expensive perfumes mingling with savory hors d'oeuvres wafting from the tray of a passing waiter. The vaulted ceiling, adorned with sparkling chandeliers, felt grander than her imagination could conjure. Yet even in this crowd, her thoughts were singularly focused. Where was Ayo? Ah, if it isn't the future queen of the gala, Layla exclaimed, appearing suddenly at Khalilah's side, her brightly painted lips twisting into a teasing smile that could melt any tension. She wore a ball gown adorned with vibrant colors that revealed her own sun-kissed skin beautifully. Where's your crown? Right here, Khalilah replied, tapping her temple in jest. Just trying to figure out how to keep it from falling off. Her laughter was brisk, but deep down, anxiety bubbled like an unpopped kernel, ready to burst. Lila leaned in conspiratorially, drawing Khalilah's attention toward the center of the room. Speak of the devil. Is that Ayo? She whispered, her eyes widening. Rumor has it he's one of the biggest contenders for the charity auction bid. Khalilah felt her breath hitch as she caught sight of him, a magnetic presence in the well-tailored suit that highlighted his tall frame. Ayo stood amidst a group of admirers, his voice smooth and charming as he gestured animatedly. His smile was dazzling, though it felt almost like a magnet pulling at her heartstrings. But there was competition. A striking woman with cascading curls, draped in a red gown, leaned closer to Ayo, her laughter ringing like silver bells. Khalilah's stomach sank. Not the time for an audience, she muttered, half joking, yet feeling very much the outsider. Layla squeezed her arm playfully. Come on, don't let her steal your thunder. Dance is the name of the game. Go get him. Khalilah hesitated, biting the inside of her cheek. What if he's not interested? What if he gets intrigued? Exactly. You'll never know unless you try. Layla interrupted, a twinkle of mischief in her eye. With a nod of determination, Khalilah steeled herself. She began to weave through the crowd, her heart thumping louder with every step. The aura between her and Ayo was almost palpable, like static electricity begging to spark into fire. Finally nearing him, she caught his eye. Time seemed to halt while she stood there, the rhythm of extravagant conversations fading into the background. He flashed her a smile, that familiar mix of warmth and intensity sizzling in his gaze. "Khalilah," he said, his voice low and inviting, cutting through the noise. "You look stunning, like you stepped out of a dream." Her heart fluttered in response, though competition lingered not far behind. "Ayo, I." Before she could finish, the woman in red interjected, her voice dripping with honeyed condescension. "Ayo, darling, are we bidding on the fine art or the fine lady tonight?" Another ripple of laughter followed. Khalilah felt a bolt of jealousy surge like cold water. Ayo's focus momentarily shifted between her and the woman. The tension surged as Ayo stepped closer to Khalilah, his presence a shield against the world. "Why not both?" Ayo replied smoothly, his eyes locked onto Khalilah's as if she were the only one that mattered. In the back of her mind, doubts bubbled, not about Ayo's interest, but whether she was brave enough to navigate the storm brewing in her heart. But then, caught in the magnetic pull of his gaze, Khalilah decided. This was her moment. "Let the games begin," she whispered, her voice laced with silent resolve. Scene 3. In the shadows. The air was thick with the scent of crisp linen and sparkling champagne, a faint echo of laughter bouncing off the walls of the opulent ballroom. Chandeliers hung overhead like intricately woven constellations, bathing the attendees in a warm, golden glow. In a dim corner, partially concealed by a velvet drape, Ayo Kanala stood, an unwavering sentinel in a tailored black suit that accentuated his broad shoulders and a commanding presence. His eyes were fixed on the woman who seemed to render the entire room still. Khalilah Raye exuded a magnetic confidence, her rich mahogany skin glowing in the ambient light, and her black curls framing her face like a halo. Each laugh that tumbled from her lips sparked with vivacity, sending ripples of joy through the gala patrons. Ayo's heart drummed an erratic beat, a melody caught between admiration and unspoken desire. He could see her charm weaving a delicate web, entrapping admirers drawn by her charisma. But beneath her poise, he sensed a vulnerability that flickered just beyond her smile. "Your expression is quite serious for a celebration, Ayo." A light voice chimed through the murmur of chatter. Janelle, Ayo's childhood friend and confidant, emerged from the shadows with a teasing grin. "You need to lighten up before someone thinks you're plotting a heist." Ayo smirked, momentarily distracted. "Maybe I am." He tilted his head toward Khalilah, who was now chatting with an older gentleman, her hands animatedly gesturing as she captivated him with her story. "Or maybe you're too enchanted to even consider your next move," Janelle quipped, crossing her arms. "You've been watching her like she's the dessert table, and you're on a strict diet." Ayo chuckled softly, but his gaze remained locked onto Khalilah. "She's remarkable," he finally said, the reverence in his tone palpable. "But she has no idea the world she's walked into." "Maybe you should tell her," Janelle suggested, her voice dropping as if a secret was on the verge of being shared. "Tell her what? That I'm a crime boss?" Ayo's voice was low and laced with caution, yet a shadow of frustration flickered in his eyes. He ran a hand through his hair, his thumb brushing the back of his neck, an unconscious sign of stress that only Janelle seemed to notice. Khalilah laughed again, and this time, the sound felt like a gentle wave against Ayo's senses, pulling him closer to her warmth despite the distance. "You act as if that's all you are," Janelle nudged, stepping slightly closer to him as she observed Khalilah engaging effortlessly with the crowd. "You could choose to be more." Ayo clenched his jaw, the weight of his secrets pressing against the tenderness he felt for Khalilah. Being more isn't as simple as deciding. "Come outside with me for a breath," Janelle suggested, sensing the tension. With a reluctant nod, Ayo followed her through the magnificent hall, stepping onto a quiet balcony draped with twinkling fairy lights. The cool breeze welcomed him, a stark contrast to the bubbling energy indoors. "I gave up on waiting for a Prince Charming back in high school," Janelle started, leaning against the railing as the city lights twinkled below. "But here you are, Mr. Tall, dark and handsome, mooning over a woman who could be queen of a kingdom." "Janelle," Ayo began, the ease in his tone replaced with weight. "It's complicated." Since when has simple ever been your thing? She teased, but then her expression softened. You're not just protecting her, are you? It goes deeper, doesn't it? He looked away, down to the streets below, where headlights dance like fireflies in the night. I can't pull her into my world, but you want to. Ayo clenched his fists, grappling with an unexpected swell of emotion. What if it isn't safe? What if my past destroys her? Then you fight with everything you have. You don't walk away from the people worth saving. Janelle turned to him, determination in her eyes, especially when they see you for who you really are. As they lingered in the moment, Ayo felt a shudder of vulnerability run through him, something unfamiliar yet liberating. She deserves more than I can give. Just then, the laughter from inside erupted again, and Ayo's gaze snapped back to the ballroom. Khalilah stood near the grand piano, radiating warmth as she bantered with another guest. She caught his eye, and time seemed to suspend as her smile lit the room, illuminating the shadows that lingered between his heart and his secrets. Maybe I should tell her the truth, he whispered, realization settling in like the softest of embraces, before it's too late. Janelle grinned, nudging his shoulder playfully. Now that's the Ayo I know. Let's see how charming you really are. Scene 4. First encounter. The gala hall glimmered with opulence, a magnificent ballroom drenched in warm, golden light, the air thick with the rich scent of sandalwood and the soft undertones of expensive perfume swirling around the guests. Khalilah's heart raced as she navigated through the crowd, her languid body draped in a deep emerald gown that hugged her curves, each step soft yet deliberate. Her dark curls framed her face exquisitely, making her feel both regal and exposed under the gauzy chandeliers. Delicious, don't you think? Khalilah smiled at the older woman beside her, glancing at the lavish buffet laden with delicate pastries, only half listening to the compliments of the guests she mingled with. Her mind darted between the evening's complexities. The high stakes of her assignment to profile Ayo Kanala mingled with the insistent butterflies wrestling in her stomach. Suddenly, laughter erupted not far from her, jarring her concentration. Just down the line of mirrored columns, a group of men in sharply tailored suits pushed through the crowd, their demeanor vibrating with menace, exuding a predatory energy that made her skin crawl. The leader, a tall figure with a cruel smile, scanned the room, his eyes betraying an unsettling confidence. Khalilah felt an instinctive chill race up her spine. Ayo, do you see this? This is a nightmare, she murmured, gripping her champagne flute tightly, its crystal rim cold against her palm. She searched for Ayo amidst the swirling colors, desperate for his presence to anchor her. Then, like a breath of fresh air among a tempest, Ayo appeared, his dark suit elegantly tailored, accentuating his commanding presence. He moved like lightning through the crowd, a knowing expression igniting in his eyes as he spotted the intruders. The air thickened with unsaid tension, the faint clinks of glasses and soft chatter fading into the background as all eyes fell upon him. As Ayo approached, Khalilah's heart hammered, not just from fear, but from an unexpected rush of admiration. His confidence radiated, filling the space between them, and she could sense the protective aura that enveloped him, soothing yet electrifying. Stay close, Ayo said, leaning slightly towards her, his voice low and laced with authority, igniting the warmth of vulnerability within her, even as a sense of danger loomed. What are they doing here? Khalilah's eyes darted back to the rude intruders, her curiosity piqued, yet her instincts screaming for calm. Not something we're going to indulge in tonight, Ayo responded, his sight fixated on the rival gang members who were now laughing too loudly, their swagger brazen and disrespectful. I'll handle it. But what about? Khalilah started, but Ayo's intense gaze silenced her. The heat of the moment stilled her protests, leaving her stunned as she processed his sheer resolve. Ayo, it's not safe. Without another word, Ayo stepped closer, the shift of his weight almost protective as he stood slightly beside her. I promise you, they won't ruin this night. He turned to face the rival leader, a silent storm brewing in the depths of his mesmerizing dark eyes. The gang leader, an unsettling smirk on his face, approached them with deliberate menace. Look what we've got here, Ayo Kanala and his flower, he sneered, eyes darting between them, ripe with mockery. Taking refuge in a pretty dress? Love? A surge of indignation flared inside Khalilah, Her voice sharpened. "And you think this is how to greet guests? Hardly charming." "Ah, the little journalist playing dress-up. Cute," the rival taunted, causing her face to flush with anger and sheer audacity. But before she could retort, Ayo stepped forward, blocking her line of sight with an intense focus that flowed through his every movement. "You're out of place here," Ayo declared, his voice as smooth as silk but edged with undeniable tension. "Leave now, or find out what power feels like." Laughter tumbled away, replaced by uncertainty. The rival gang exchanged glances, the bravado faltering within their ranks. A thrill ran through Khalilah at the display of Ayo's fearlessness, as much as fear gnawed at her gut. The pulsating energy in the room shifted, crackling like the smell of ozone before a storm. With an impatient wave, the gang leader adjusted his collar, the bravado slowly peeling away under Ayo's unwavering gaze. "You think this is over? I'm counting on you to remember tonight," Ayo replied, a low growl beneath his words. In that moment, Khalilah felt the bittersweet tension wrap around them. Ayo was stepping up, even as the air between them bristled with something unspoken, a tether forming between their souls that held a whisper of vulnerability beneath their bravado. As the rivals retreated, Khalilah turned, breathless, emboldened. That was impressive. Ayo's gaze softened, if only for an instant, enough to spark a deeper connection. "Just protecting what's mine." She swallowed hard, unable to find the words to express the tumult of emotions building within her. The night's gravity pulled them closer, heavy with unvoiced emotions, each electrifying moment tethered to a truth they could no longer ignore. "Yours," she finally whispered, her pulse racing. "Yours too," he replied, and in that fleeting exchange, everything shifted. Even in the chaos, for a heartbeat, they saw each other clearly, two souls dancing on the edge of a storm. Scene 5. Rescue and Regret. The air hung thick with the scent of rain-soaked pavement as Khalilah stepped onto the balcony. Below, the city throbbed with life, the distant wail of sirens punctuating the muted sounds of the buzzing nightlife. She inhaled deeply, the coolness brushing against her skin like a reminder of the storm lurking just beyond the horizon. The day had begun with chaos, and the night promised no less. She turned her eyes toward Ayo, who stood a mere few feet away, his silhouette carved against the dim light of the living room. He was magnetic, a storm himself, dark, intense, and filled with a potent energy that made her heart race and her mind swirl. The feel of his presence lingered in the air, a calming balm over the whirlwind of emotions that had left her shaken just hours earlier. "Thank you," Khalilah finally said, breaking the charged silence that hung between them. Her voice seemed small against the brooding night, but it was sincere, bolstered by the adrenaline still thrumming in her veins. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shown up." Turning toward her, Ayo's eyes glinted, a mix of relief and something deeper flowing beneath the surface. "You shouldn't have been there, Khalilah. You're far too valuable to be caught in that mess." His voice bore a weight that wasn't lost on her, a mix of authority and protectiveness that both intrigued and frightened her. With a faint smile, she countered, "Maybe I was just trying to add a little spice to my otherwise dull life." A brief chuckle escaped his lips, a sound so warm it chased away the chill that threatened to settle in. "I can assure you, this kind of spice is far from what you want in your life." They shared a moment, long enough that Khalilah felt the air around them shift, filled with anticipation. "What do you want, Ayo?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. A shadow passed over his features. "I want to keep you safe. It's risky business when you seek the truth in my world." There was something in his words that rang true, though the unspoken complexities swirled just beneath the surface. She took a step closer, feeling the shift of energy between them, and said, "And what truth is that?" His gaze held hers, intense and piercing, the kind that can rip everything apart. "You're playing a dangerous game by profiling me." Khalilah suppressed a shiver, the vulnerability in his tone breaking down her walls, igniting a warmth that seeped into her very core. "But isn't that what I've always done? I break down barriers," she stated, oscillating between pride and fear. "Barriers can be dangerous," Ayo replied, his voice low and edged, "especially when they involve people like me." There was an unintentional intimacy in the way they stood there, the weight of their circumstances pressing against them like an encroaching storm. As raindrops began to patter on the balcony railing, Khalilah felt their world shift again. It was the kind of moment that teetered between connection and ignition, filled with unspoken words and unanticipated longings. Just promise me you won't dive into danger without a lifeline. Ayo's commanding presence felt even more consuming in that moment, a protector surrounding her with a technological veil of intimacy and warmth. Smirking, she replied, "Are you volunteering for that job?" A fleeting smile flitted across his features, and for a heartbeat, the tension dissipated. "With the way you run headfirst into trouble, I might not have much of a choice." "I am resourceful, you know," Khalilah teased, hoping to lighten the heavy atmosphere. "Just think of me as your accidental superhero, cape and all." Ayo laughed softly, a sound she found entirely too appealing, and shook his head. "Right, a superhero with a knack for trouble." Just then, the veiled expressiveness between them shifted, turning tangible and electric. Ayo took a step closer, his voice dropping to a low whisper. "Khalilah, just don't forget that this world isn't as forgiving as you're used to." They stood wrapped in a moment that was thick with possibility, the patter of rain on the floor mingling with the heartbeat of the city beneath them. The depth of his concern ignited something within her, an exhilaration that threatened to unravel her feigned composure. She felt the connection between them, raw, unchecked, poised on the edge of something both profound and perilous. "I won't forget," she vowed softly, their gazes locking in a promise far deeper than words could express. But as always, the storm outside mirrored the turmoil that brewed inside, leaving them at the precipice of ambiguity and desire. Scene 6. An unexpected romance. A soft golden light filters through the high windows of Ayo's sprawling office, casting a honeyed glow over the carefully curated chaos of papers and blueprints that clutter his massive oak desk. The room smells faintly of sandalwood and expensive cologne, an intoxicating mix that sits like a heavy fog in Khalilah's chest as she stands there, gripping her notepad tightly. Today, she had come to assess the progress on his latest project, but what she truly needed was to figure Ayo out his intensity, the layered depths behind his thoughtful gaze. Khalilah jots down numbers and measurements, the scratch of her pen sounding like a drumbeat in the stillness of the room, but her heart is drumming louder. Ayo leans against the windowsill, his silhouette outlined by the sun, casting a long shadow that seems to stretch toward her as she scribbles. He's relaxed like he owns the world, yet she can feel a weight hanging between them. She glances up, catching his eyes, and her breath stalls. "Ayo," she starts, her voice shaky. "These plans, they're immense. Don't you think you're stretching your resources too thin?" She tries to sound authoritative, but the question feels more personal than professional, a chink in her armor. He straightens, his dark brows knitting together as he approaches, the tension crackling around them. "Khalilah, sometimes you have to stretch the limits to see how far you can really go. It's a risk I'm willing to take." His tone is steady, yet the challenge lingers in the air. "And what about people?" she presses, stepping closer, the deep mahogany floor creaking beneath her weight. "You think you can just push everyone like that? Not all of us are on the same page. Are you talking about the project or about us?" His voice drops an octave, cutting through her thoughts, leaving a tantalizing tension that makes her heart race. She swallows hard, the question hanging between them like a storm cloud. "You think this is about us?" She scoffs lightly, even as her pulse betrays her. "Seems like your focus is elsewhere." He smirks, quirking a brow. "Am I not intriguing enough to keep you dialed in?" Khalilah rolls her eyes, but the smile creeping onto her lips betrays her. "Intriguing? Maybe. Infuriating? Definitely," she replies, but the words feel lighter than intended. An unexpected crack in her defenses has opened, and now the flood of emotion rushes in, her vulnerability almost spilling over. "This isn't just business, Ayo." "Then what is it, Khalilah?" he asks, stepping closer still, breaking the invisible barrier they'd been wrapped in. "What do you want from me?" "What do you mean?" She's deflecting now, the professional facade in her voice quivering as she feels the heat radiating from his proximity. "I want to ensure your plan doesn't implode." "Liar," he whispers, his voice a gentle caress that sends a shiver down her spine. "You want something more." He reaches for her, fingers brushing the back of her hand lightly, igniting a spark that pulls her nearer, blurring every boundary she believed existed. They share a long moment, breaths mingling, the soft beat of their hearts resonating in the charged space. Ayo's gaze holds her captive, a mix of warmth and challenge that feels like a riddle she can't solve. Maybe I don't know what I want, Ayo, she confesses, the fight draining from her voice, leaving only tender honesty. Maybe I'm lost in this whole thing, in you. You're not as lost as you think, he murmurs before moving even closer, the intimacy of the moment intensifying. You just have to let go. But a sudden noise, loud laughter, and voices echoing from the adjoining room breaks the moment. Ayo's expression shifts, the protective mask slipping back into place. I need to. What, act like you don't care? Khalilah interjects, irritation and desire dancing in her tone, frustrated at the fragility of what was almost real. No, he replies, voice softening. I need to protect you. Their eyes lock again, and she sees the buried passion beneath his calm exterior. We both have shadows we need to confront. And here I thought we were just getting started, she teases lightly, yet the unspoken words pulse between them, electric. We are, Ayo responds, voice low and gentle. But the world is complicated. He leans in closer, their foreheads almost touching. Let's not make it harder than it needs to be. Easier said than done, Ayo. She laughs, hoping to ease the weight of their shared longing. But deep down, she knows that in the still silence surrounding them, the sparks are too potent to remain unacknowledged for long. Yeah, well, that's the gamble, he says with a crooked smile, stepping back, but the charge between them lingers in the air, a promise of what may come next. Scene 7, Hidden Truths, Part 1. The rain pattered against the large bay windows of Khalilah's office, a rhythmic tapping that echoed her racing heart. The once bright space, adorned with photographs of her successes and visions for the future, now felt stifling. Shadows loomed in the corners, and her meticulously crafted world began to unravel like the frayed edges of an old tapestry. Outside, the storm clouded the skyline, a mirror to the tempest brewing within her. Khalilah stared at the pile of paperwork spread across her desk, her fingers trembling as she picked up her husband's phone, left behind during a recent business trip. With each swipe of the screen, the laughter and love they had built felt like ghosts in the empty room. She had long grown used to his late nights, the vague excuses, but tonight, the truth unfurled like a dark nightmare, messages revealing his infidelity, snapshots of moments shared with someone else. Each word stung like a lit match against her skin. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Ayo stepped inside, tall and commanding, with a presence that filled the room. His dark brown eyes scanned the disarray, Khalilah's crumpled brow, and the tears threatening to spill over her carefully composed facade. Khalilah? His voice was smooth, yet edged with concern. She glanced at him, momentarily lost in the depths of his gaze. It's nothing I can't handle, Ayo, she replied, the bravado a weak echo of her original strength. He approached, tilting his head slightly, letting the rain-drenched silence stretch between them. It looks like it's more than nothing. What's going on? Khalilah took a deep breath, set the phone down, and scrubbed her hands over her face, suddenly feeling the weight of the world on her slender shoulders. I found something on Malik's phone. Something disturbing. Her voice trembled, the words catching like a fishhook in her throat. Ayo's expression hardened. What did you find? His intensity shifted to a protective stance, fury flashing momentarily. She watched him, this man who so effortlessly commanded fear and respect in the underbelly of the city, now softened as he awaited her reply. Photos, messages, him with someone else. Khalilah's heart raced, the hurt bubbling to the surface. All this time I've been running in circles, trying to convince myself everything was fine. He moved closer, the warmth of his body a balm against the chill of betrayal. You deserve better than this. You know that. His voice was low, compelling, drawing her in. But she felt the tug of her marriage sneering at her from the back of her mind. Why does it hurt so much? Khalilah whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. I thought I could handle his neglect, but finding out this, it makes everything feel wrong. Ayo reached for her hand, his touch grounding. It's normal to feel this way. Truth doesn't always align with what you want. He paused. But you have the strength to face this. You're Khalilah Raye. She studied him, the determination in his eyes mixing with an inexplicable desire that tightened the space around them. You make everything sound so easy, Ayo. But it isn't. This is my life. Then let's face it together. The intensity of his gaze held her spellbound. You shouldn't have to go through this alone. With a shaky breath, she exhaled the tension, feeling a warmth spread through her. What do you mean by that? She hesitated, torn between a longing for companionship and the fear of what it might ask of her. His voice lowered, laced with a sincerity that sent shivers down her spine. I'll help you, Khalilah, whatever it takes. Amidst the rain, Khalilah allowed herself to imagine a new path, one where she would confront not just her husband's wrongdoings, but her own worth. But her eyes caught the shadows of doubt creeping in. And what about us, Ayo? Where do we even fit in this mess? He placed a finger under her chin, tilting her face upward. We fit together. It's about time you let someone else in, even if it's messy. The flicker of warmth sparked into a comforting blaze. If you'll allow me, I'll protect you with everything I have. Tears brimming, Khalilah felt the heaviness in her chest lift slightly. Yet her heart whispered caution, battling her burgeoning trust. I need time to figure this out. His brow furrowed slightly, but he nodded, understanding the gravity of her emotional ledger. Time, then. But you're not alone in this. Ayo stepped back, but his presence lingered, a steady flame against the storm outside. As rain continued to hammer down, Khalilah felt the muck of her heart begin to clear, and despite the chaos, a flicker of hope ignited within. But would hope be enough to weather this storm? We'll see, she said softly. It was a beginning, both tender and terrifying. Scene 8, Helicopter Tour. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the skyline of Atlanta. The towering glass buildings glimmered like diamonds, each reflecting the warmth of the setting sun. Ayo Kanala leaned against the sleek black helicopter, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his tailored jacket. His eyes, dark and focused, scanned the airfield where Raye was about to arrive. The distant whir of blades echoed, mingling with the pulsating energy of the city that had become both their battleground and refuge. When Khalilah stepped out of her car, her eyes widened, the weight of her troubles seeming to lift, if only for a moment. Her long black curls danced in the light breeze, catching the glimmer of the sun. The vibrant orange and pink sky framed her beautiful features, and Ayo felt an unexpected rush of vulnerability. A stark realization that he wasn't just inviting her on a tour, he was inviting her into a moment that could change everything. Khalilah approached with an air of caution, her forehead creased. Ayo, a helicopter? Really? I thought you couldn't have made me more uncomfortable. She crossed her arms, the gesture both wary and defensive. Ayo chuckled, attempting to ease the tension. Oh, come on, it's just a little bird's-eye view of your wonderful city. What's the worst that could happen? I promise I'm not trying to scare you. Not exactly a thrill-seeker here, she replied, her lips curving slightly. But I guess I can't pass up a chance to see the city from above. Just don't crash it, she added, half joking, her gaze flicking to the helicopter blades. His smile faded, replaced by an intensity that reflected the gravity of their situation. Khalilah, if I wanted to see you flying, it wouldn't be in this way. A moment passed. The air felt thick, charged with unspoken words. Khalilah's heart raced, not just from the thrill of the helicopter, but from the feel of his gaze on her. A mixture of concern and longing that sent shivers down her spine. What are you trying to tell me? She echoed, a hint of challenge in her tone. He stepped closer, the whirring of the helicopter blades fading into a low roar, taking a chance. I want you to see what I see, the beauty in this city, the power of what we could be. But you need to let go of some of your baggage if you want to come on this ride. Khalilah blinked, her defenses crumbling slightly under the weight of his sincerity. Is that really the best you can do? Putting my emotional baggage up against a helicopter ride? Is this some form of therapy you're selling? He held her gaze, a playful smirk ghosting across his lips. You think I'd charge you for therapy? No, sweetheart, I'm doing this for the free snacks. She laughed, a sound bright enough to momentarily chase away the shadows clinging to her heart. You're ridiculous. Exactly. With a sigh, Khalilah glanced at the helicopter before returning to him, her expression more serious. And if I fall for you during this therapy? What then, Mr. Kanala? Ayo softened, his voice dropping an octave. Then you better buckle up because I'm a bit of a wild ride. She hesitated, her feelings shifting rapidly. Ayo, I don't know if. Before she could finish, he reached out, tucking a stray curl behind her ear, the intimacy of the gesture hanging between them like a promise. Just trust me. The city beneath them bathed in gold, and the warmth of the moment enveloped them. Khalilah swallowed hard, feeling the tug of her own desire as she took a steady breath. Fine, I'll take a chance on you, but you owe me snacks. Deal, he said, his tone oddly sincere, the smile returning to his face. But you must admit I am definitely more handsome than the snacks. Bold claim. You need to work on your self-esteem, Ayo, she quipped, arching her brow, yet her heart fluttered in spite of her teasing. As the helicopter lifted off the ground, they soared above the city together, laughter dissolving the tension that had lingered. Below, Atlanta unfolded like a vibrant patchwork, a visual testament to both their hopes and fears. Khalilah felt the air rush past her, and for the first time in a long while, the promise of new beginnings sparkled just within reach. Look at that sunset, Khalilah, Ayo said, his voice drowned out by the helicopter's roar. Life's full of unexpected adventures. You're not meant to let fear hold you back. And in this moment, floating above the world they both knew, she believed him. Scene 9, Secrets Undisclosed. The sun dipped lower in the sky, cascading its golden light through the tall windows of Ayo's penthouse. Khalilah stood at the kitchen counter, her fingers tracing the rim of a porcelain teacup, her mind swimming through the chaos of her recent discoveries. The scent of brewed jasmine filled the air, a comforting contrast to the dread knitting itself firmly in her stomach. Ayo leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, silhouetted by the afternoon light that softened the hard lines of his figure. His dark skin glowed like polished ebony, and despite his casual posture, an electric tension radiated from him, suffocating yet intoxicating. Khalilah could feel the weight of his gaze as it settled upon her, igniting her insides with an unwelcome cocktail of desire and anxiety. So, that's how you make your tea? Ayo quirked an eyebrow, a teasing smile creeping into the corners of his mouth. With that much hesitation? Her heart raced as she swallowed her retort. It's a special blend, just like your business dealings. She glanced at him over her shoulder, daring him to press on. Ayo stepped into the kitchen, his presence commanding the space like a force of nature. He approached slowly, the tension between them thickening, charged. Are we really circling around what's uncomfortable, Khalilah, or is there something on your mind? Let's not pretend, she shot back, her voice steady yet laced with a tremor that gave her away. I know your connections to my family's troubles. He shifted closer, his expression shifting from playful to serious in a heartbeat. That's dangerous territory. Only if you make it dangerous, she challenged, crossing her arms defensively, instinctively stepping back, but her heart rebelled against the retreat. If you step in to help my family, I need to know where you stand. In an instant, the playful atmosphere dissolved into an undercurrent of urgency. Ayo leaned against the counter, his fingers tapping rhythmically, as if weighing a decision. You don't understand the game I'm part of. It's not just business, Khalilah. It's all intertwined. Tell me, she demanded, stepping forward. What do you really want? From me? From my family? I'm not some pawn for you to move. A tense pause lingered, thick enough to slice through. Ayo studied her, the flicker of a smile playing at his lips, but it didn't touch his eyes. It's not just about what I want, it's what I'm trying to protect. And what about your secrets? Khalilah pressed, her impatience flaring. Does that include the truth about who's really pulling the strings? Some secrets, he replied, the weight of his words echoing in the room, are meant to shield those we care about. Sometimes the truth is just too heavy to bear. Her breath caught in her throat, and layers of confusion washed over her. Khalilah felt a flush rise in her cheeks, mingling with the heat of unacknowledged attraction. So, you think keeping me in the dark will protect me? Is that your idea of care? He straightened, suddenly serious, the lightness of their banter extinguished. When you see shadows lurking where there should be light, you protect the ones you love. But the more I get to know you, the more complicated this becomes. Complicated? Khalilah laughed, though the sound was hollow. That's one way to put it. You could just tell me the truth. Could I? He stepped closer, both of them trapped in a moment where desire tangled with expectations. Or would you simply run? This is a dangerous world, Khalilah. You should know by now that I don't run from danger, she snapped, the defiance surging in her. But behind the bravado, vulnerability lingered. She blinked, meeting his gaze, and for a heartbeat, everything else fell away. Ayo extended a hand, brushing against hers. I didn't mean to pull you into a web of shadows. I wanted to draw you into the light. Khalilah felt the warmth of his palm seep into her skin, a gentle invitation amidst a whirlwind of chaos. And what if I don't want to live in your light? What if I want to know every shadow first before stepping into the light? He leaned in slightly, breath suspended between them as the tension surged. Then let's unravel the secrets together. Khalilah swallowed, her heart racing. Together? Together, he affirmed, a resolve in his gaze. Now it was her turn to feel the weight of his desire, a whisper of possibility weaving through their charged silence. Okay, she breathed, unwillingly captivated. But this better come with a side of truth. And a little bit of fun, he shot back, breaking the tension with a grin that brightened the room. I promise no lies, just maybe a couple of secrets sprinkled in for flavor. Khalilah rolled her eyes, but couldn't suppress the smile that tugged at her lips despite the swirling emotions. Can we at least start by figuring out how to save the family business? I have ideas. Then let's put those ideas to work, Ayo said, sudden determination lighting his features. But, Khalilah, just know that as you step deeper into this, you might find yourself confronting more than you bargained for. We'll meet the shadows together, she replied, a newfound strength kindling within her, even as the dual currents of dread and desire washed over her once more. Scene 10. Danger looms. The low hum of the city swirled outside Khalilah Raye's penthouse window, a symphony of life laced with tension. The sun dipped low on the horizon, bleeding golden light against the steel and glass that defined her skyline. Yet within the ivory walls adorned with art that spoke of her success, an uneasy chill lingered, much like the remnants of her disintegrating relationship with Marcus. In the shadowed corners of her mind, she fought the spirals of anxiety that taunted her heart. Why did I let him convince me? She muttered, hands fidgeting with the hem of her blouse, the silk cool against her fingers. Ayo is different. Just focus on the interview, she whispered to herself, recalling the mysterious allure that dripped from every word he spoke. Khalilah had almost forgotten what it felt like to be intrigued, to be drawn into someone else's world simply by the tension of their gaze. Suddenly, her phone vibrated, slicing through her thoughts like a blade. She frowned at the screen. It was an unknown number, but curiosity had a way of creeping up when dread lingered. Miss Raye, a cold voice echoed on the other end, robbing her of breath. It would be wise for you to stay away from Ayo Kanala. People who cross him don't end well. Panic coursed through her, icy and relentless. Who is this? What do you want? Her voice trembled, defiance written all over her face. The line went dead, leaving behind an echoing silence that seemed to cling to her skin. Khalilah dropped the phone like it was hot, heart racing. She staggered back, memories of stark alleyways and whispered threats flooding her thoughts. This was supposed to be a profile, a simple assignment. How had it spiraled out of control? Just then, a knock at her door sent her dizzying heart into a frantic rhythm. Khalilah, you in there? Ayo's voice, rich and calming, cut through her growing dread. She rushed to open it, and there he stood, Mr. Tall, dark, and handsome, a living, breathing force that rendered her momentarily speechless. His presence filled the room, cloaked in the scent of sandalwood and something unmistakably him. What's wrong? He asked, eyes piercing her with a mix of concern and something deeper, a promise of protection she desperately craved. I just got a threatening call, she whispered, her throat tightening. They know about you. They want me to stay away. Ayo stepped closer, the air thickening with the unspoken truths between them. They think they can scare you. He paused, lowering his voice. But they won't. Not while I'm around. Before she knew it, Khalilah found herself leaning into his warmth, a cocoon amidst the encroaching chaos. She could feel the steady pulse of his heart beneath the crisp fabric of his shirt and the strength of the man standing resolutely beside her. Ayo, this is dangerous, she said, searching his gaze for reason. Yet all she saw was determination. This isn't just a job for you anymore, is it? No, he admitted, a hint of vulnerability flickering across his features. I can't walk away, not without protecting you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and consuming. Khalilah drew in a sharp breath, feeling the intensity of that admission settle deep within her. What if you? Ayo stepped even closer, catching her chin with his fingers, forcing her to meet his gaze. What if I filled your life with something more than fear, something worth fighting for? Her heart raced, confusion waltzing with longing. You make it sound so easy. It isn't, he said, his thumb brushing her cheek, igniting a response that was electric. But it's worth it. I promise you that. In that moment, she found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, fear, desire, and a sense of accidental intimacy that threatened to dismantle her carefully constructed walls. Their lips brushed, tentative yet hungry for affirmation, igniting a fire that hadn't been there moments before. Then, as if struck by a sudden thought, Khalilah pulled away, eyes wide.